Okay, so I decided to make a little extra point for this tutorial series, kind of, with the Pokeball, and I kind of want to show you how to do some post-processing stuff and lighting techniques, just so we can render this a little bit better, because when I rendered it last, it didn't look really how I wanted it to. And it really never does until you actually get the right lighting setup and composition setup. So first we're going to go with the lighting, and right now we only have one lamp, which really doesn't show for much. It really doesn't give off enough effect and enough light to actually show the model and showcase it in a proper way. So we want to select this lamp, and before we do anything, I want to show a little technique that I kind of use a little bit, or sometimes I use it. And you can add another object, and then you can actually have the light track to the object that you're trying to render, but I find that sometimes doesn't work that good because it tracks to the center point, and you don't really want to be moving the center point around just to get the lighting correctly. So you kind of want to add another object entirely so it can track to that object, and you can place it wherever you want. So what I'm going to do is Shift A to add an object, and I'm going to just add an empty. So we have this empty, and I kind of want to size it up just a little bit so we can grab it easier. And I want to center it the best I can in the center right there. Okay, so now we can grab the lamp and then grab this empty. So Shift and then select the empty. And you can press T, or Control T, sorry. And then you can, the second option down, track to constraint. So now you can't really tell on this kind of a lamp because it's just an area or a spot lamp, not a spot lamp, but just a lamp in general. Yeah, just a point lamp. And what we want to actually do is create or turn this into a spot lamp. So once we turn this into a spot lamp, you can see that that's a pretty huge spot lamp, but it tracks directly to that empty. So now whenever we render it, it will actually be the correct coordinates of the lamp. It will always be tracking to that position. And the first thing I want to do actually is size down this lamp a little bit and bring it in. So now we want to make this our key lamp, so it gives all the specularities and gives the key lighting of the scene. Gives all the highlights and everything like that. Okay, so we want to position it. The key lamp is usually right behind the camera, or where I usually put it is right behind the camera. So right about there. And what I want to do is change the size, not the size of it, but yeah, the size of it. Not the actual size, but the size of the area in which it covers. So it's this little option down here. And by the way, I'm in the lamp object data, and then I'm in the lamp settings. So, and down by spot shape, you can change the size right here. And I want to put the blend up a bit. So the blend is the smoothness, the transition of the lamp, and its kind of its area that it shines on. So I kind of want to make that transition a little bit like that. Okay, so what I want to do now is duplicate this lamp because I want to have a fill light and a backlight as well. And what I want to do is press Shift D to duplicate this, and now we have it selected. I want to move it over to about there. Shift D this again, bring it on to the back around here, and in side view I kind of want to have the back lamp right about there, so it's almost directly in line with the ball, but it's a little bit higher than it. Now we can actually change, I think that's the key lamp, so we can bring this down. I want it a little bit higher, and as for this lamp, I want it pretty much right about there. And I want to change its property to Hemi, so it's kind of just like an area of shading. I also want to put the energy of this Hemi lamp down to about 600, and the back lamp a little bit down to about 800. And we'll keep the properties of the key lamp. So now for the back lamp, I want to put the size down, and I want to put the blend a little bit up, or down, sorry. Now for the Hemi, I want to turn off specularity so it shows no specular highlights from that lamp, and I want to select the back one and do the same thing, so turn off specularity. So you can uncheck that little specular option right here. Okay, so we can look at the whole positioning from the top view, and it looks decent, and we'll get a way better render this time. So let's just render this actually right now. Oh, and another thing you can actually do with the camera to make this a full setup is you can select the camera, select this empty, and then press Ctrl T and track to constraint. So now we actually have the camera tracking to this ball, or this empty, and you can move this empty around, so if you want to have it centered somewhere else, then everything will kind of track around that. So I find it really nice for just quick rendering of a model, so showcasing a model. And let's have that positioning. So we can click Render Image or F12. And if you watch the other tutorials, it looks a lot better since then. It's gotten a lot better. And I'm pretty happy with that. Another thing we can do is, if we don't want very many shadows or any shading to be too harsh or too black, or whatever you want to call it, like too dark, and you want it to be a little bit like faded and transitioned, you can also go to the world options, and there's an option for either environment lighting or ambient occlusion, and I always use ambient occlusion for the showcasing models, just because it kind of occludes everything nicely. The factor, we really don't want 1 for the factor, we want it about half, so you can put it around 50, 0.50, and everything else seems good. We can either put it to ray traced or approximate. Now ray traced looks a lot better in my opinion, but approximate takes less time to render and takes up less memory, like always. So let's just try this right now, rendering this with the ambient occlusion, and see if it does anything. Okay, as you can see, everything got brighter, which looks better actually, but you might not want it that bright. So what you can do is actually either put this factor down more, or another thing you can do is just change the light brightness, so the lamp's brightness. So you can change this one, say, down to 900, put them all about a couple hundred down. So this one down to about 700, and this one we'll put it down to 500. And then render that again. And there we go, it looks decent. Okay.